What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we are back with that juicy Destiny 2 news to jump in and talk about. So we've got some stuff to do with the game right now, and as always at the moment, a bunch of Shadowkeep things to speak about too. So we've got some buffs to exotic weapons, changes for acquiring certain loot in the game, couple of things about the September update, details about the season of Undying and how we, as players, will actually launch the season ourselves, which is pretty cool. Got more information about new activity difficulties, the new endgame for upgrade materials, Bungie talk about Activision, and we do have some new interview segments about Shadowkeep's story, various updates and roundups in the video. So guys, as always, if you enjoyed this one, a rating is very much appreciated, but now let's get straight into it. So first up, let's talk about updates and some quality of life stuff in the game. Recently, there has been a conversation about Sunshot. I know Astacross made a video about it. And yes, it's fair to say the weapon certainly needs a little bit of love. But DMG responded, the team has been hard at work on some Sandbox quality of life coming in Shadowkeep. One item in particular is Sunshot and its mag size. I need to say that we'll get more details when we're closer to October 1st, so some kind of buff coming to Sunshot finally. Actually one of the better hand cannons in D2 at launch. They did buff the explosion damage and stuff in year 1, but of course that magazine size man, 8 rounds, especially when in year 2 we have weapons like Ace of Spades, right? They've absolutely blown Sunshot away. Was there a pun there? I don't even know, but either way, that's one change to expect in October, and I'd also be curious guys. We do have a bunch of underloved and underused exotics in the game right now, so let us know in the comment section which other exotics would benefit from seeing some buffs in the game. We do have some other changes coming later on though, so on the subject of the Mida Multitool Catalyst, yes, I almost forgot the thing existed, but we have changes coming in Shadowkeep to the competitive playlist which may make the Catalyst more accessible. Once that's live, we'll continue to monitor this feedback. And so the interesting thing to take away from that is that some of the competitive rewards that we have right now are still going to be in the game when we get that playlist rework, and so could current pinnacle weapons, things like Not Forgotten for example, because it requires that max ranking comp, maybe that'll be potentially easier to acquire as well. In case you're wondering, the Mida Multitool Catalyst, I believe, drops randomly when you're at 5,500 points in comp. I picked it up back in September of last year, that was pretty much the last time I invested into comp, so I guess I'll count myself lucky on that one, but there was also a complaint from someone who very unfortunately managed to delete an entire stack of enhancement cores. So DMG said, I'm going to leak something right now. Come Shadowkeep, enhancement cores will be dismantled individually as opposed to in entire stacks. We have quite a bit of time before launch, and if any bugs or issues are found, then this could change. So definitely bear that in mind, this is not a confirmed patch note just yet, but it should be the case that these will no longer be dismantled in stacks, which at least means you're not likely to lose all of your enhancement cores at once. Now, a couple of final things. Somebody said, is there going to be a way to track the community progress for the upcoming community challenge? And DMG said we will be providing daily updates via Bungie, so that'll be on social media and stuff. And he'll be looking for more ways to communicate, but there won't be a kind of in-game tracker for it. So if you want to see how the community's getting on in next week's event, stay tuned on Bungie's social media. But also next week we'll bring update 2.5.2.2, and that includes the changes to Reckoning and Gambit Prime rewards. So those should be dropping a little bit more regularly. The tuning the difficulty of Reckoning, the Mountaintop and Wendigo quest adjustments will arrive, alongside the change to Braytech schematics. And that's going to be a good one if you are taking part in the community challenge and you need any items from that. On top of this, there will be a few other bug fixes, and we'll get patch notes next week on the 3rd of September. There's also a bug where you can't abandon the mysterious box quest from back in Black Armory. I believe that's if you haven't completed it, it's some kind of bug, but if that has been affecting you, you will be able to actually get rid of that from your inventory later on in October. Now though, let's talk about more Shadowkeep stuff. So there have been a bunch of different interviews. We've got some stuff from Fireteam Chat at Gamescom, and also a new interview with Paris from Gamertag Radio. There's definitely some good conversation in there with Bungie devs, so I'll link those down below. But on the subject of Season of the Undying, Scott Taylor said that Undying is a natural progression of the story in Shadowkeep. Some things will happen in Shadowkeep which make the Vex rather upset, and then they do a thing. That was his exact quote. But we do get that confirmation that what's going on with the Season of Undying story is directly related to Shadowkeep. And separately, Deej very interestingly said that the community will begin Season of Undying, similar to the way that the curse was unleashed on Dreaming City with the completion of Last Wish. And so to actually get into the bulk of Season of Undying itself, firstly it appears that it won't necessarily happen on day 1, but us players are going to start the season ourselves, and presumably this is going to happen in the raid. In fact, Bungie did originally list the start date for Season of Undying as October 5th, and this was in the Undying trailer description on YouTube, but funnily enough, the launch date for the raid Garden of Salvation is October 5th. Scott Taylor also suggested that players won't have access to all of the new power and customization options immediately, and so with contest active, players will definitely be limited when they go into Garden of Salvation. And so perhaps seasonal offerings like the artifact will actually unlock with the completion of the raid. And then maybe from there, Vex invasions begin across the system in retaliation to the actions of the Guardians. But yeah, the way that the season of Undying is going to kick off will be pretty similar to unleashing the curse on Dreaming City, and I think that sounds really exciting. And yes, we will be getting the season reveal as well as a PvP reveal at some point in this week, so definitely stay tuned on the channel. But they do talk about new options for Nightfall difficulty. So when you do the more difficult versions, you'll get more of the new resources and materials for armor upgrades. And the dev suggested that the hardest Nightfalls will award the most high-end materials that are required for certain upgrades. Of course, we have seen an exotic Ascendant shard-looking thing, various different materials, and Bungie have confirmed, of course, that we will still be using enhancement cores. But Deej added that Nightfalls will be a core part of the upgrade economy with 2.0 gear, and Scott Taylor fortified that by saying there will be very specific paths available to farm for all of the currencies required in Shadowkeep. So that sounds positive. Of course, the difficulties that we've seen include Adept, and that has a modifier called Air Superiority. That also comes with matchmaking. The hero difficulty comes with Air Superiority, Champion's Overload, Champion's Barrier, and Torment of Zydron. You can see that these are Nightmare Hunt difficulties, but the devs confirmed that these difficulties will also be what they're using for Nightfalls in Year 3. The final difficulty, Legend, is 950 power right there. Matchmaking actually isn't present, and you can see that you've got all of the previous modifiers, but then things like Match Game and players will be equipment locked. And so these difficulties are going to factor into Nightmare Hunts themselves, and that's a new activity for Shadowkeep, but also other activities, and specifically we know that they will apply to Nightfall strikes. And then of course when we are running Nightfalls with those modifiers, we'll probably be able to see some of the rewards listed in the UI at launch too. So let us know what you think about that. Assuming the rewards scale well, and then we're not going to find ourselves in an absolute drought for all of these materials, then hopefully this is going to be a pretty cool system. Next though, we have a new interview from Eurogamer with Bungie, and there are just a few interesting things here. So they asked, I've seen a call for more detail on how time-limited content in Destiny 2's upcoming seasons will work. If I'm busy during a particular season, away on holiday or with work, what will still be available to play or chase after it wraps up? And that is a very, very good question, of course. Deej responded that there needs to be a longer conversation with the leaders of our development team around our plans for seasons this year, and I know that that conversation is coalescing behind the scenes. It's something we'll be having when we get back from Gamescom, but I know there are questions, and that's a curiosity we'll satisfy in the next couple of weeks. So when Bungie talk about how seasons will change in Year 3, these are the specific details we can expect to start getting. It was kind of an extension of this question on Fireteam chat as well. How are Bungie going to manage the ever-expanding game? And Deej responded, we're going to ask Luke Smith to come out and do another big article discussing how Bungie will address the challenges after Year 3. And so alongside the other statements we've heard recently, Year 4 of Destiny 2 is absolutely on the table, but from what Deej is saying, it looks like Bungie will be back post-Shadowkeep, discussing how this is going to work on what Deej called a franchise level, so pretty big stuff, and it appears that essentially we will be getting another Director's Cut type update or potentially set of updates at some point in the future. Here there are a couple of questions about story-related things. And Eurogamer say, I'm looking forward to hanging out with Eris again in Shadowkeep, but players are curious to when the other Destiny 2 plot threads, pyramid ships, will be returned to. What can you say to players waiting patiently for that? And Scott Taylor said that Shadowkeep absolutely pushes the main narrative threads of Destiny forward. And while we've loved doing what we think of as side stories that explore corners of the Destiny universe in past expansions, Shadowkeep moves the Destiny story forward. Another thing that we're excited about is how Shadowkeep's storylines will kick off the stories explored in Season of the Undying, and all of the seasons in Year 3. So once again, we're seeing how the Shadowkeep story will set up events for Season of Undying itself, but also the future seasons for Year 3. Also, Bungie are saying that the events of Shadowkeep definitely push the main narrative of Destiny's universe forward in a significant way. I'm not sure if he was essentially referring to the pyramid ships as side stories though, and if that is the case, then perhaps we shouldn't expect to see them substantiated anytime soon, but yeah, kind of remains a mystery. Eurogamer talk about all the awesome things Bungie have been doing, and they do say, would you have been able to do these things under Activision? Deej answers, I don't know. I think we need to dispel the notion that Activision was some prohibitive overlord that wasn't letting us do awesome things. We launched the franchise with Activision, and naturally, over the course of time, we've both decided that we had different goals for what we wanted it to be. So we both went our separate ways, it was amicable, and here we are making this game on our own, doing what we think we need to do to make it awesome. Pretty interesting response right there, and all of the gaming websites have run with that. Bungie says Activision aren't the devil. Let us know your thoughts as always. But there was another interesting question to Scott Taylor. So they said, as a chief architect of Rise of Iron, you had the unenviable job of guiding that, while another part of the studio was simultaneously readying D2. What were the learnings from keeping all of those plates spinning, and how are you applying them to both Shadowkeep and what's next? As Scott Taylor says, it's a pretty different situation this time around. With Rise of Iron, we knew we were closing out Destiny 1, while Destiny 2 was in development. But this time, with our continued commitment to Destiny 2 and seasons beyond Shadowkeep, it was more about making sure that all of our efforts this fall and beyond line up with our overall franchise goals. Single evolving world, action MMO, and deeper RPG elements. Play anytime, anywhere. That means the main challenge the team tackled was lining up the development timelines and goals for Shadowkeep, New Light, Stadia, Season of the Undying, and all of our system updates like 2.0, cross-save. They've had to spend a lot of time making sure those are in sync and complementing each other, but now we're excited to get all of this content into players' hands so it can help inform us what to do next with Destiny 2. So that's very interesting, isn't it? Scott Taylor did work on Rise of Iron while the studio was producing Destiny 2, but as he says, this time around their goal is to continue to support D2. Essentially, they're not currently trying to build and ship a D3 within a year of this other major piece of content. Just an interesting insight, and once again, it really solidifies that Bungie at least are not even indicating that they're working on D3. I genuinely do think their plan to try and support Destiny 2 as a live game, even if that means kind of platform upgrades in the future. I'm starting to genuinely think that that is their very long-term plan, but I would love to hear what you guys think, and hopefully you've enjoyed some of the stuff we've had to talk about today. Really excited for Shadowkeep, guys, and I will be keeping you posted with hopefully some fairly major reveals over the next week as well. So stay tuned here on the channel, but if you have enjoyed the video, a like rating down below really helps me out. You can hit subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to see everything related to D2 pretty much as soon as it happens, but otherwise, thank you as always for tuning in, guys. Enjoy these final couple of weeks of sun, potentially, before we lock ourselves in for that Shadowkeep grind. It's gonna be real. Either way, whatever you guys get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.